Hey, what's up everybody? David the Pro Solo Flipper here. Today I'm just putting together a video. And one of the most common questions I get was how I was able to go full-time reselling. Um, the steps I took to do it, and then people are curious about how things work when you're full-time. So if you follow me on Instagram, I posted, in my stories, I asked the question, what do you want to know about how to go full-time or about being a full-time reseller? And I got a bunch of questions. I wrote a bunch of them down here so I could kind of make sure I don't miss any. I hope I got them all. I'm not sure I got them all from the story, so that there might be missing a few, but I'm going to kind of just talk quickly, as quick as I can, about going full time, and then I'll just check over to make sure I get any additional questions that I didn't hit on just kind of telling my story. And then if there's any other questions I missed or that you were curious about, just leave them in the comments, and I can answer those for you. So basically, I am a full-time seller on pretty much just eBay. I do a little bit on Amazon, but I really only sell a couple things a week on Amazon, not very much at all. I don't put any effort there really. Occasionally, if I find new items or something that's easy to scan and list, scan the UPC and list, then I'll put it on there. But so I'm pretty much strictly eBay. I do some local sales as well, but they're insignificant compared to my eBay. So I am a full-time eBay seller. I've been full-time for about a year and a half. So I can kind of talk about my background quickly. If you've watched my other videos, I've talked about it before. So I'll just kind of try to be brief about it. But basically, I've been selling on eBay for 20 plus years. I did it mostly on a very small scale for a long time. And then there was a period about 8 years ago where I just stopped doing it altogether, and I didn't do it for a couple years. And then I started up again about 6 or 7 years ago, still part-time, just for extra spending money or to help pay the bills or whatever. And then about 4 years ago, and my timeline might be off a little bit because the more I tell this, the further it gets away from when I actually did it, and I might be off by a year or 6 months or something. But basically, 4 years ago or so, I started kind of increasing my listings. I was maybe at between 50 and 150 listings for a while. Like I said, just doing it part-time, not very serious, and started increasing it just to see what I could do or to get a little more extra money. And so I bumped it up probably to maybe 300 or 400, 500 listings even. And then I'd say about 3 years ago, I kind of started following people on social media, other resellers on social media, on YouTube and Instagram, and I started getting more into reselling. And so I started increasing my listings even more, and started to think about whether or not I could do this full time. And I guess I should give you the background as far as my income goes. So I'm married, and my wife and I would say that about the time that we got married, which we got married about 3 years ago, is about the same time I started thinking about. That year, I say that first year, I started thinking about whether I could do this full time. So basically, my wife and I had similar income. So I was working at a bank. I was a loan operations manager at the bank. I was making pretty good income, really good benefits. My wife was making a similar income. She's a physical therapy assistant, and so together we were doing really well. And then whatever I was making on the side on eBay was just extra. And with that extra money, I was taking it and just doing enjoyable things, recreational or whatever, with a little bit of it. And then with a little bit of it, I was also paying extra on bills, paying down some of our debt. And then the rest of it I was just going right back into eBay, right back into buying more inventory or supplies or whatever I needed. So, and then I would say about 2.5 years ago, I really kind of decided that I would really like to see what I could turn this into on the side, and with the possibility of maybe going full time down the road. I didn't know, and so I really started increasing my listings. I think when I started When I started out, I was maybe around 500 or 600 listings. So I was starting to get a regular income. In fact, that's one of the questions. I'll just go ahead and hit on that now. Somebody asked, at what level of listings did you start to see some regular amount of sales? And I would say it's been pretty consistent for me ever since about 150, 200 listings. That I would get about 1% of my listings would sell per day. So if I had 100 listings, I was averaging one sale per day. If I had 200 listings, I was averaging two sales per day. When I got up to 1,000 listings, I was averaging about 10 sales a day. So it's been fairly consistent. Not always exactly the same. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But on average, I would think for the way I'm sourcing, which is not like a bulk inventory or wholesale or anything like that, which maybe has a higher sell-through rate. I'm mostly buying one-off items from garage sales, thrift stores, auctions, and so I was seeing about 1% of my listings sell per day. So, and so like I said, I started out, I was about 500 listings or so, and I really dramatically started increasing mine at the beginning of the year. And by the time I got to August or so, I was really serious about wanting to go full time. So well, another question that somebody asked was, how did I convince my significant other to allow me to do this? And for me, that was kind of, in my mind, the biggest hurdle for me to be able to do it. So I had to justify. I had a good job. I was a manager at the bank. I had a really good job with pretty good pay, and I had to make enough to justify walking away from that and doing this full time, right? Which sounds crazy to probably a lot of people. I have a degree, a bachelor's degree in finance. I had a good job at the bank, very stable job, with a promising future, I suppose you could say, right? Income wise and whatever. So I had to be making enough to justify it. So I started kind of dropping hints throughout the year that I would like to go full time or whatever. And I think my wife kind of just laughed it off, but I think she kind of knew I was serious. And I would share my numbers, how much I was making, and she knew how much I was paying extra on bills and stuff, and how fast I was paying down our debt. So I've mentioned this before in my videos too. In the last year, I was part-time. I paid off like $23,000 in student loan debt. That's where I was like a year before I quit, and then I had that paid off in like 9 months or something, 10 months, because I was paying like $2,000 extra on a month from my eBay income. I also paid off my truck in the last year and a half. I owed about $10,000 on that. Anyway, I was aggressively paying off debt. So that was the biggest hurdle, was convincing her. So I talked to her in August, and she's like, and I still wasn't quite done with paying off my student loan debt. And I don't think she was crazy about the idea. I think she's just worried, worried about, other things financially and medical stuff, medical insurance and stuff like that. So I talked to her about it, and she said, talk to me again once your student loans are paid off. And I had them paid off within a month, because I only had a couple thousand left on there. So I talked to her again in September, and she kind of gave me the okay to quit at the end of the year. So and the main reason for that was we wanted to finish up the calendar year for our health insurance, so we didn't have to start over and pay another deductible by switching insurance or whatever. So so that was the plan. So I'll just go ahead and talk about medical insurance, because that was another question. How do we handle that? So for those of you out there who have another significant other who has insurance through their business, through their work or whatever, then it's probably not an issue for you. For us, it was an issue for a couple of reasons. One, my wife doesn't have health insurance through her work. She's an independent contractor, so she gets, no benefits. She doesn't have taxes even taken out of her check, so she just gets a check with nothing taken out of it. So, and I was the one who was carrying the insurance through my work for our family. And so that was a significant factor to consider. So not only am I going to walk away from my job that's making good, but I'm also walking away from good healthcare insurance that was mostly paid by my employer. So, so what we did was we looked at private insurance, and it was not cheap. And so what we ended up doing was just staying with Cobra. I was allowed to stay for, I think, 18 months or something on Cobra, just keep my insurance through my work and just pay for it out of pocket. Um, and so that's what we did to start. And it was about 1,100 a month. That's for me and my wife, and for two kids, or three kids, three of our kids. Well, two, I guess. Well, one was in college, I think, by the time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Two or three kids. It didn't really make a difference to the price anyway. So we were paying 1,100 a month through COBA, through my previous, through my employer's medical program or whatever. And so I should say in September I decided, but I didn't give notice at my work until November. And in the middle of November, I decided I wanted to give 5 weeks notice to my employer, to give them plenty of notice. You know, they treated me well the whole time I was there, and I wanted to kind of feel like I did the right thing by letting them know. Maybe it kind of turned out to be a mistake, but maybe not. I don't know. So I think on November 15th I put in my notice, and they kind of discussed it. Upper management discussed it and decided that that would be my last day. So anyway, I didn't have 5 more weeks of work. I was just done that day. So I was a little bit confused by that, and I guess probably a little bit insulted. I mean, it kind of messed with my plans a little bit, just as far as how much savings I had in the bank before actually quitting. But it didn't really end up mattering. And I wasn't that upset about it. I wasn't really looking forward to working those last 5 weeks anyway. And so I was done that day, and I was instantly full-time. So November of 2018 that was. So like I said, it's been about 1.5 years since I quit. So that's kind of the story of how I did it. As far as, like, I know another question was, did I have any check marks I wanted to check off before quitting? So like I said, I wanted to be able to justify walking away from a good paying job. And so for me to do that, for me personally, I wanted to have my income fairly close to what I was making in the bank. So, and also another question was, how many listings did I have when I made the leap? So I had about 1,000 listings. And at that point I was selling about 10 a day. I think it happened to be fourth quarter when I quit. And so I was at that time selling about, I would say for that fourth quarter, I averaged maybe 11,000 a month was my sales. And so if you watched my videos before, I mean, my net income usually off my sales is about half of my sales. So so maybe I was netting 5,000 or 6,000 a month at that point, but that was fourth quarter. So I knew it would drop a little bit going back into first quarter for the next year. But basically what I wanted to be able to do was pay all my bills and still be comfortable. So my wife and I kind of share the bills. So we don't exactly put our money together, but our money, you know, my money is hers and her money is mine or whatever. So we kind of split the bills down the middle, kind of a thing. And she pays her personal bills, like her insurance, her cell phone and stuff. I do the same for myself. And then we kind of split the house expenses, I guess you could say. So I just wanted to be able to keep paying what I had been paying previously, and still be able to be comfortable, you know, and go do stuff if we wanted to go do stuff, or make a purchase if we needed to make a purchase of something else or whatever. And so I was able to do that before I even quit my job. I was able to do that with just my eBay income. And so that was my biggest check mark that I wanted to hit, was just being able to be. I didn't want to do it if I was worried about it. And so another question was, what was my confidence level going full time? I was fairly confident, and so I mean, I've been doing this for years. I even part time on the side. And when I say part time on the side, I was probably almost working full time on the side at the end there, trying to get my listings up as high as possible. But that being said, I was going to a 9 to 5 and working 40 hours a week, and I knew that if I had that extra 40 hours, that I was going to at least be able to do better. Now, I will talk about it for a second about what I thought, and I thought that I'd be able to double what I was doing, but I didn't. And you can watch my previous videos if you want to kind of see why. Basically, I thought once I went full time, I kind of wanted to restrict my time working to just a 9 to 5 hour period. And so I think I was already working close to 40 hours before. And so once I quit my job, I didn't work in the evenings or on the weekends hardly at all. And so I I still was only working maybe a little bit over 40 hours, so I wasn't able to grow like I thought I was going to. Um, but anyway, I'm growing now because I'm a little more willing to put in a little bit extra work on the weekends or during on the evenings here or there or whatever. And I'm a little more focused than I was before because it became more important for me to grow. So I put in a little more effort during the day to make sure I'm getting listings up and stuff like that. But so so that's kind of my story. Let me just kind of review over these questions and just make sure I've kind of answered all of them. Someone asked, did I have a goal while I was part-time? So I didn't really have any set goal to get to when I was part-time. I was just always trying to grow my total number of listings. So if I was at 400 listings, I was trying to get to 500 listings, and if I was at 500, I was trying to get to 600. I was just always trying to reach that next level. And so I guess I did have goals, but they were just more like short-term goals, and it was a moving goal. And by the time I quit my job, I was maxed out. I don't think I could have got any much higher than 1,000 listings. It just didn't have enough time to do it. You know, it was starting to be I was working too much and you know, and not having the family time that I wanted to have or whatever too. So as far as another point I want to make on the confidence level was, you know, I was already at the level I really needed to be, you know, a minimum level that I needed to be. I figured without having to go to a job every day, I was going to be able to get higher, at least a little bit, right? And then I also had a surplus of inventory, so I love to source. I think most people that do reselling, that's the funnest part, right? And so I buy stuff at auctions and garage sales and thrift stores, and I buy too much, more than I have time to list, especially when I was part-time. And so I ended up having, like, you know, hundreds or thousands of extra items that were sitting waiting to be listed. And that was part of a comfort level for me for when I went to full-time, was knowing that that stuff was there. If anything happened financially or whatever, where I kind of started running out of money to buy, you know, inventory, then I would have that stockpiled and I wouldn't have to go buy the inventory, and I could start listing that stuff. And so that never really happened. But it was nice when this quarantine started, that I did have all that stuff and I couldn't go to thrift stores for a while. There were no garage sales to go to, that I started listing some of that stuff, and my sales weren't affected at all. In fact, they've gone up, as I've talked about before. So let's see what else. Somebody asked, when is the right time to go full-time? So that's very subjective, and it's going to be depending on you and your situation. But my short and sweet answer is to that question is when you can afford to. I think the longer you can hold out, the better. You know, if you can do it part-time on the side while you have a full-time job, and your full-time job pays your bills, and the part-time money that you receive can you put back into the business to grow it, or to pay down debt, or to put money in savings or whatever. The longer you can hold out, the better situation you'll be. But that's really up to you and your income requirements. I feel like on one part, my income requirements were higher because I wanted to justify my income from my bank management job. On the other hand, I live in Idaho. I don't live somewhere that's really expensive, so my income requirements because of that are probably lower than some people's. So, you know, it's all up to you and what you can afford and what you're comfortable with. I mean, I wouldn't recommend just quitting your job and walking out if you have no preparations made. It's going to be a struggle to be able to keep buying inventory, and to get that your listings and your sales, your gross sales, enough coming in that you can pull an income from that to pay your bills every month. That kind of touches on another question that I have, is how do you decide how much income to pull for yourself? Luckily, my wife and I are doing fine. We're comfortable, so I don't have to really pull a set income. What I just do is when my PayPal balance gets up to 1,000 or 2,000 or so, I will pull 1,000 or 2,000 into my bank, and I will use that money to pay bills. If there's any left over, I might put it in savings or whatever, and then I just keep going. Whatever's left, I keep buying inventory. So that touches on another question that I have, which was, do you have a sourcing budget? For me, luckily, I don't. that being said, I mean, there are other things that I could be doing that I wouldn't have enough money to source that way, I suppose. If I couldn't make like a $10,000 purchase. I mean, I guess I could, but that would probably wipe out all my funds or something. But so the way I source is local auctions, garage sales, thrift stores, and I have enough money coming in that I don't really have a cap on my budget for sourcing. So if I go to the thrift store and I find $800 worth of stuff, which I don't ever find that much stuff, but if I did, I would just buy it. But I have been known to spend $200 or $300 at one thrift store, and it's not an issue to go to the next thrift store, and I could do the same if I wanted to. And then I go to auctions, and sometimes I spend $100 at the auction. Sometimes I've spent as much as, I think, a little over $2,000 at an auction. But usually I get some stuff that I can quickly turn around and make most of my money back. So like I said, I'm up to 1,400 listings now, and so the amount of income that's coming in is enough to justify me really buying as much inventory as I need to. So I don't really have a budget. So if that's to answer that one person's question. Anyway, that's most of the questions answered. So if you have any other questions, please just leave them below. There was one more that was what were my main concerns about going full time, and how did I overcome them. So I really only had a couple main concerns, and they haven't really been an issue yet. So I haven't really overcome them. My main concerns were, like I said, my confidence level was high for doing this. I've been doing it a long time, and my level of listings and sales is high enough that I wasn't worried about it at all. But my two concerns are, what happens if the economy turns and people stop buying stuff? So that's still a concern that could happen. With everything that's going on right now in our country, in the United States, that it's definitely a concern that there's going to be a recession. But so far, as far as everything that's gone on, it's only led to an increase in sales. What a downturn in the economy would do, I don't really know, because I wasn't full-time. I wasn't using this as a full-time income the last time we had any kind of a recession. So that is a concern. I think I'll work it out. I'm not too concerned. Like I said, our only debt is the house. I have plenty of excess inventory, so I could stop sourcing if things got too tight for a while. So that's one concern. The other concern, I guess, would be, what if something happened with eBay? And I don't necessarily mean my store or my account, but eBay in general. Like, is it going to last forever, or like a lot of things, is it just going to go away? I mean, eBay has been around for 20 plus years now. I think they're in the strongest position as they ever have. I mean, of course, Amazon has come along and taken probably even a bigger market share than eBay ever had, but eBay is still strong. I've got my feet in Amazon if I ever need to switch over to Amazon. There are other platforms out there I can switch to too. So I'm not super concerned about that either. I think it's going to be around for quite a while. And reselling will always be around, even if eBay is not the platform to do it. I mean, reselling's been around forever. I mean, that's really the nature of almost any retail business is reselling. Right? Buy stuff cheaper from wherever and sell it for more, whatever your platform is, whether it's locally or online. But so that's basically it. Like I said, if you have any other questions, just let me know. I'll answer them for you. Another question that didn't get answered this time, but it gets asked often, was if you could do it again, would you do it again? And the answer is absolutely. Do I have any regrets? No, I don't. Not at all. If anything, I wish I would have done it a little bit sooner. But I hate to say that too, because I mean, I kind of wish I would have done it 15 years ago. But if that's, if I did it then that would have been before I finished up my business degree. And maybe my business degree is helping me run my business. I don't know. But that being said, I'm just glad I'm doing it now. I've been doing it a year and a half now. I think I've got kind of a regular schedule going down, and things are going well. And I'm just still trying to slowly grow and make more money, and and be more comfortable. So, but it's so much fun. The lifestyle is really the best part of it. Like, your schedule is yours. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, pretty much. And that's really the best part about it. I mean, I'm not doing this to make $1 million. I'm not going to make $1 million. There are people out there, I guess, who are making $1 million doing it differently, but most of those people are more likely on Amazon doing stuff at a much bigger scale, and they have employees and stuff like that. That's not really what I'm looking to do. I don't really want employees right now, but I can see that it could be nice. But anyway, so that's it, guys. I'll stop this video before it gets any longer. But like I said, if you have any comments or questions, let me know. Hit that like button if you can. Subscribe if you want to. Check me out on Instagram, Pro Soul Flipper there too. All right, thanks, guys.